I want to talk a little bit today about underrepresentation of Native Americans in the mental health field. Talk a little bit then about some of the efforts I've been involved in at Oklahoma State University in trying to close that gap, and give you some examples of how we've closed that gap and we're getting greater representation in the mental health field. Well, let me give you some background first. When I graduated from the University of Missouri in 1991, I was one of only 11 PhDs nationwide who received doctorates in psychology, and it was across all disciplines: clinical, counseling, social, experimental, and so forth. And at the time, it was estimated there were only about 100 PhDs that were Native Americans at the time, and even today, it's estimated only to be about 400, which constitutes about 0.4% of all PhDs in psychology. That's less than 0.5%. So there's clearly, I don't think it comes as a big shock, given that we're largely underrepresented in higher education and so forth, that would trickle down into the professional world, that we're sorely underrepresented. A few years into my career, I started in 1991. I've been here forever. I'm a lifer. In 1994, we had an American Psychological Association site visit. And one of the site visit team members was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Art McDonald. I knew that Dr. McDonald was a Lakota citizen, but I didn't know too much else about him. I soon was to learn that he was the first Native PhD in psychology and was the architect of the American Indians into Psychology programs nationwide. He requested an individual visit with me. And Art was in my office and stood in front of my desk and said, "Where are all the Indian students?" And I tried to explain to Art that I was really intent on getting tenure because I planned on being here a while. And once that happened, I would do my very best to pursue those opportunities to provide educational opportunities at the undergraduate and graduate level for Native students. And he sent me a lot of information about, these were new programs in 1994, the American Indians into Psychology program that had to be approved by Congress and then funded through IHS. So following tenure in 1996, I did pursue and received one of only 3 nationally available American Indians into Psychology training grants in 1997. And it's been a real game changer for recruiting, training, and retaining Native American students here at OSU, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, students who are pursuing careers in the mental health field. Our program, I don't want to go into detail, but there are just really 2 parts of it. We have a summer enrichment, that's a science and professional development program that we offer for sophomores and juniors. It's down to about 2 weeks now, but it usually can be up to 4 weeks depending on funding. And then we offer some pretty comprehensive scholarships for undergraduates that are pursuing their bachelor's degree in psychology. And then for students who are accepted into our clinical psychology PhD program, we also have those comprehensive scholarships available. We have had the grant funded consecutively for 26 years. And that's largely a result of the institutional support that we've had, all the way from presidents to VPs, deans, department heads. Thad Leffingwell has been very supportive of our program, and I think refers to it as the crown jewel of the department, because we have created a community environment for our Native American students that has become integrated into the full life, the academic lifeblood of our department. It does not exist separately, not unlike the Center for Sovereign Nations community that's been established. In those 26 years, 50% of our students that have come through the summer AIP program have gone on to graduate school. 46 of those have earned PhDs, and 40 of those right here at OSU. And the latest number, I talked with Patricia, my assistant, she said, just say 75. You'll be plus or minus 3 there. 75 have received master's degrees of those 200 students that have come through. What I'm most impressed by, I'm impressed by a lot of things that we've accomplished in the program. We still have a lot of work to do, but it is that community sense that we've established. And our graduates continue to represent and serve Native communities and Native students in a variety of ways. Graduates, for example, from our PhD program include Choctaw citizen Chris Four, who is the director of the Telebehavioral Health Division for the National IHS Behavioral Health arm. Victoria Keefe, who is a Seminole Cherokee, is an endowed chair in Native American Health at Johns Hopkins. Absentee Shawnee citizen Evan White is a principal investigator at the Laureate Institute for Brain Research and director of Native American Research. And B.J. Boyd, who's a Cherokee citizen, is a senior psychologist at the Chickasaw Nation. So our graduates go on to serve Native people in a variety of capacities and give back, and that's representation. Another example of representation, and I never thought much about it. I knew it was a goal, but I didn't know when we had reached the goal in our summer program. But in 2021, as of 2021, all of our clinical lecturers in our summer program are past AIP graduates who went on to get their PhDs. So up until then, we had to have a variety of different clinical PhD folks to give our seminars, and now our Native students are being taught by Native professionals, and that's representation. So, and why is the, even though we've accomplished a lot, why does that need continue? The demand continue to be so great for mental health providers? Well, one of the reasons that because of the increase in treaty-based self-determination compacts between tribal nations and the federal government, we've seen an exponential growth in the number of tribally operated healthcare systems over the past 30 years. What that means is that more and more medical and behavioral health care is being provided by the Native nations themselves. And not surprisingly, many Native citizens prefer to receive their care at tribal healthcare facilities from other Native professionals. So the demand for Native healthcare providers continues to grow, and it's significant. And efforts I think, like the AIP program here at OSU, are essential to meet those needs. It's also important to note because if people were to ask, what language do you speak in your home, we'd probably say sovereignty. That's what we speak. So it's important to note that having Native citizens occupy those leadership positions, those decision-making positions, and professional positions is an important exercise of tribal sovereignty to determine the health and well-being of our own citizens. I've told my students several times, the way things typically work, as we talked about, being subtle usually doesn't work real well. I've told my students that the way things usually work is that you either have a seat at the table or you're on the menu, one of the two. So having a seat at the table and being decision makers is vitally important to tribal sovereignty, even in the mental health field, but education and Native issues more broadly. And I am in the unique position, I'm also the director of the American Indian Studies program here that's co-located with the Center for Sovereign Nation, and that has been a huge benefit to recruitment and a variety of other things. I have the benefit of getting counsel from Donna Hare, who is the advisor for NASA and is a key advisor to the American Indians in the Psychology program, and several students who went through the AIP program, worked here in the center, and then went on to get PhDs and other graduate programs. Just a few examples, a few of my students, Clayton Edwards, who just defended his dissertation, is a Micmac citizen. I bet y'all never heard of that, have you?
That's pretty cool.
Maybe one or two. And two other Cherokee citizens, Meg Baker and Colton Barker, are currently in our PhD clinical program. We've also had other citizens. Caitlin Pipestem went through the AIP program. She worked in the center and recently earned her master's degree in social work at WashU in St. Louis. And speaking of WashU in St. Louis, where's Kaylee? So raise your hand so you can see. Hi. Cherokee citizen who is entertaining an offer currently from WashU and Northeastern State University in social work, correct? Yeah, her top two picks, so you go. So in addition to 6 current PhD students we have in our clinical program in psychology, we'll add 2 more starting in the fall. and they're both graduates of the AIIP summer program. And so that means our native students will comprise 20% of our PhD clinical psychology student body. So, to answer the question, where are all the Indian students? Well, most of them are right here. Thank you for listening.